Hi, welcome to another REVS Origins, hosted this time by me again, Aston, at Mission Motorsport at the workshop. Got some of the toys out at the moment. More importantly, we're doing a little thing at the moment along with everyone else, which is the old rear view challenge. So if we have a quick look this way, here's our rear view for the day and our Origins subject for the day. And the Origins this time is a little bit of a difficult one to explain how it came about. Soccer mum race car. So we've labelled it as the Type CRV, obviously a Honda normal SUV, and we've fettled around a little bit with it so that in order that we could make it safe and take it racing, which is a bit of a strange thing. It came about through a relationship with Honda of the UK manufacturing and the guys at Mission Motorsport. We've had a relationship with these guys for quite a while now, to the point where we've got bits of kit throughout the workshop that's been donated by them, and indeed the car, along with a budget that came with it from Honda in the UK, to actually go through with the build of this. The budget wasn't massive from memory, it was somewhere between £4,000 and £5,000. So Dave and I were set the task by the boss to turn a SUV into a race car. Thanks for that, Jim. There's a few bits that we'll touch on as we go through the car, but I'll start with the rear view because we're obviously on rear view at the moment. You'll notice that there's a few additions on there and there's a lot of subtractions in there. Obviously, with it being an SUV, they're pretty heavy, so we've had to try and make it as light as possible. We also didn't want it to fall over, so we had to take into account things like suspension, brakes. Wasn't much we could do with the engine. It was a fairly limited build time, so we started with stripping everything out, which if anyone's building race cars out of a modern car these days will know can be quite tricky, especially when you get into the looms. Race car, obviously, so we need some pull handles on it here and there. This one we decided to use, having deleted the rear wiring loom to the locker. We needed to fit manual in. And if you look into the back, you'll notice that we have quite a lot of steel for the roll cage. So a very good friend of ours, Nick Jackson, Mission Motorsport, put the cage together for us. His attention to detail is second to none, and he came up with a design, looked at it, didn't like the first one, decided no, it's an SUV. If it ends up on its roof, and let's be honest, it's ours, it's gonna need a bit more reinforcement. So he's ended up putting a lot more in than would normally be necessary. So you can see there's not just a crossbar, we've got two sets of crossbars. It's an absolute work of art. It's tied into the B pillars, into the A pillars, and it's absolutely brilliant. It's done the job well. Touching on the suspension, if you come in and have a quick look in the back, you'll see that we were finding it quite difficult. Obviously, we wanted the car lower. It's an SUV, so it's designed to do the school run, the shopping. We needed it to not just handle like a race car, of course we wanted it to look like a race car, so we had to get onto the suspension manufacturer and basically ask them to bespoke build some, because at the time when we built this car in 2017 they didn't have any suspension available for it, and let's be honest, who puts coilovers on an SUV apart from me with Subarus? But so we had them make that up. We took some measurements, they went away, bespoke built it, the stuff came over, the wrong stuff came over to begin with, got sent back, then the right stuff turned up very last minute and turned out to be that it was a little too short. So we've actually had to fit coilovers to lower it, and then we've had to fit a body lift kit in order to still fit that suspension. But it works, it hasn't fallen off, which is absolutely brilliant. If we take a move round to the front of the vehicle, you can see some of the other bits we've done. Starting with the wheels, we've got the wheels. Fortunately, again, our friends over at Honda helped us out sourcing some wheels from one of the later Civic Sports. So we've got a nice 18-inch wheel with a good 235 40 tyre on it. The tyres are just the Bogo standard road tyres that came on the Civics. Again, you know, there's no real budget to this build, so we needed to just use what we had available, and those were these tyres. To stop it, what we were able to do was pilfer a few bits from the latest Type R, and they were the calipers, which if you just come in and have a quick look, you'll see big set of Brembos, and we're also on some prototype discs, so it's discs and bells, and they're absolutely phenomenal. Even on this, it's proper party trick is the way this thing can stop. Moving around the front slightly, we've taken a few design cues from the Type R, and so you'll notice there's a nice bonnet vent in there, and because we were going endurance racing, we're doing plenty of racing at night, we needed some illumination, so I've decided to cut out a hole in the grille. We fitted the lamp pod in the front, whereas most people would stick them up on the bonnets and all the rest of it. I wanted it to be quite tidy. I did note that Synchro Motorsport then started doing it afterwards, so you obviously enjoyed that and took that away. So getting onto the roof, we talked about the roof vent just briefly. If you come around this way, I'll show you something. I like to pick a fight every once in a while, not a fight, but sometimes I like to have little games with the scrutineers. So the boss decided that this vehicle came with a nice pano roof, so we would keep the pano roof. So if you just have a quick look in and a look up, you'll notice we've kept the pano roof. However, we've used Lexan. Dave and I spent many late nights fitting this and came up with a lot of new swear words in order to call the boss, because he was adamant that we needed to keep this panoramic sunroof. It's not a sunroof, which is how we got around it. It's actually a window. And as you know, if you know anything about the Blue Book, you can replace windows with an appropriate material, which of course is Lexan. And there we go. So it's able to be scrutineered, it's able to go racing with its moon/sunroof. We've had a few issues building it, along with obviously with the new race cars or the new cars, everything's CAN bus. So when it's come to removing things like the blind for the roof or the motor for the boot, everything that we wanted to get rid of to lose weight and prevent fire, we started pulling bits out. Then we noticed we had huge bits of loom. Each time we'd take something out, we'd start the car to make sure that it ran. Afterwards, there was a big bit of loom that was running all the way up from the front under the dash all the way to the rear, where it did control the boot and it did control the blind for the roof. But knowing that none of these were in and the vehicle was still starting, there was a connector at this end, so we disconnected it. It wasn't then for a couple of days. We then went to start the vehicle and it wouldn't start, and it was purely down to the ECU detecting that length of cable. So the resistance in that cable wasn't there, so it wouldn't allow us to start the car. So in true rushed fashion, we bundled it all up, tied it up and stuffed it on the dash, and went racing with it. And to be fair, it's still going strong. We've managed to only blow the turbo on it, and it clogged the DPF. So we knocked out the DPF, fitted new turbos, and now it runs and it's still going strong.